The youngest of 8 children, Bach was born in Eisenach in the central German region of Thuringia in 1685. At the time, Thuringia was a loose assembly of small states, dukedoms, principalities and free cities. Almost every local ruler boasted his own band of court musicians, and each city had its own official music makers. Italian, French, German, Polish and English musical styles could be heard from Dresden to Erfurt, and Bach himself came from an extremely musical family, perhaps the greatest family of German musicians of the 17th and 18th centuries. Bach's father, Johann Ambrosius, was both a trumpeter and violinist, employed by the town council and the ducal court of Eisenach, while his uncles and brothers worked as keyboard players, organists and chamber musicians throughout Thuringia and neighbouring Saxony. There were musical gatherings and galas in both the family home and at the town church of St. George, giving Bach a formidable musical education. Bach's secure family upbringing came to a sudden end in 1694 with the death of his mother, and in 1695 with the death of his father. Almost at once, Bach was on his own.
He lost his parents at the age of 10. And I think that trauma, that shattering experience, formed his outlook on the world for the rest of his life. He felt abandoned. He felt the world would be a deceitful, untrustworthy place. This worked very well with his religious understanding as a Lutheran, where the same attitude towards the world is preached. In many ways, what he then was going to do with his music was to, in a sense, create his own world, his own better world, the perfect world. In a sense, he himself is going to become a creator.
After the death of his parents, Bach was taken in by his elder brother, Johann Christoph, an organist who gave him his first formal keyboard lessons. His fine singing voice secured him a scholarship at a school for poor boys at Lüneburg, and by the age of 18, he had acquired his first official employment as organist at the Neukirche in Arnstadt. Bach had secured the post at Arnstadt by testing the new organ. The church authorities had been so impressed with his playing that they had given him the job on the spot. But they soon found that their brilliant young organist had a musical ambition that was hard to control, and were particularly upset by the surprising variations he added to Lutheran hymn tunes. At Arnstadt, Bach was determined to develop his skills as a keyboard virtuoso. At the age of 20, he took a month's leave of absence and walked 200 miles to study and perform with the Danish organist Dietrich Buxtehude in Lübeck. Buxtehude's technique, showmanship and dramatic sense of composition had a considerable influence on the young Bach. Bach stayed with Buxtehude for 4 times as long as the authorities had allowed. When he returned to Arnstadt, they were furious. They complained that he was both willful and stubborn, that he had gone to the wine cellar during a sermon, and that he had been unnecessarily involved in a sword fight with a student after accusing him of playing the bassoon like a goat. They also censured Bach for inviting a strange maiden into the choir loft. This was almost certainly his cousin, Maria Barbara, whom he married at the little church in Dornheim on October the 17th, 1707. Their marriage had music at its heart, and two of their children, C.P.E. Bach and Wilhelm Friedemann, were to become great composers in their own right. Bach and Maria Barbara began their married life in Mulhausen, 20 miles north of Eisenach. Here, at the age of 22, Bach wrote his first cantatas, Aus der Tiefen and Actus Tragicus. But he complained about the lack of regular performances of church music on Sundays and found it difficult to work with the pastor, Adolf Fröner, who liked his church music simple and unadorned. After only a year, Bach left Mulhausen to become organist and chamber musician in the court orchestra of Duke Wilhelm Ernst of Weimar.